And welcome everyone to a special Sunday edition of Shaken Not Heard. I am one of Shaken Not Heard's hosts, Elliot Serrano, right down there, right below. Hi, Dave
Hello.
Ditto. Hi. What are you breaking? What's going on? What's happening?
I'm going to blame it on the cat.
Blame it on the cat. We all have our pet issues today. And today we are joined by special guest Lizzie Sebastian.
Hello.
Lizzie has been with us before on Shaking Not Heard to talk about the Bond movies.
Mhm.
And today she is going to be talking to us about The Kingsman, the prequel to the Matthew Vaughn series, the Kingsman, the Secret Service, as well as Kingsman, the Golden Circle. If you're wondering why are we talking about the Kingsman on a show dedicated to James Bond, well, if you've never watched those movies, they are incredibly Bondsy, very Bond-like. As a matter of fact, as based on a comic book series written by Mark Miller with art by Dave Gibbons. And in the interest of full disclosure, I'm going to tell you right now, I do not like the comic books. The truth is, there are very few Mark Miller books that I like. His Marvel, I think his Ultimates that he did for Marvel, which is where a lot of the stuff for the Avengers movies gets pulled from, and that's probably about it for me. The Kingsman. Okay, you want to know why I didn't care so much about the Secret Service by Mark Miller? In the very first issue of the book, he kills Mark Hamill. No, not just some guy named Mark Hamill. The actual Mark Hamill. It's like he is. The agents are sent on a mission to rescue Mark Hamill, and they foobar it, and they end up killing him. And at that point, I was like, I don't like this. But Matthew Vaughn, when he adapts Mark Miller's stuff, he's another adaptation that he did was of Kick-Ass. And Matthew Vaughn does soften a lot of Mark Miller's characterizations, plots. Sometimes as violent, but not as cynical as Mark Miller's stuff tends to be. But you know what? That's me. That's the way I feel. Mark Miller's an incredibly successful comic book writer, creator, and the fact that he gets so many of his books made into TV shows and movies, just got to give the guys props for that. Anyway, so this one's a prequel starring Ralph Fiennes as the founder of The Kingsman, and I'm gonna tell you, I also went in completely blind, completely unknowing. I have not seen any of the Kingsman movies. I've been meaning to see them. I know, Dave, you have said that I should at least watch the first one.
Yeah.
And the reason we're doing this one is because it was just made available on Hulu and HBO Max. So if you have Hulu or HBO Max, you can watch it. It's part of a streaming service. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to rent it through any of the streaming services. It's there for you. I said, hey, you know what? I got a free weekend night. Let's watch it and let's talk about it and let's bring Lizzie back.
Yay!
She loves Rasputin so much.
And Kingsman. I am a fan, so this was a good combo.
All right, good. Anyway, before we get into that, Dave, guess what I can tell you?
What's that?
Is it faithful to the book? Actually, no, it's not. In fact, like I said, Matthew Vaughn does change a lot of elements from the comic books for the movies to make it a little more palatable for a general audience. If you read the comic books, the books are very sweary, very brutal, very dark, very cynical. Again, that's a lot of the stuff that I'm not crazy about in Mark Miller books. But he keeps the basic
story.
I'm sorry?
Movies based on a comic story? I thought it was an original story.
The first movies.
Yeah, the first two, but not this one, right?
Not this one. Okay. All
right. Matthew Vaughn came up with a story for this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the original concepts were based on Mark Miller's comic book, The Secret Service.
Okay.
Which was run by Image Comics for a bit. Was an anthology in a British publication, if I remember correctly. And I have a couple of the issues. And again, I read the first one, so I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. I also read the first issue of Kick-Ass, and I didn't care for it. So that's kind of me. But the Kick-Ass movie actually was more fun than the comic. So anyway, yeah, we can do that. And then next question, is anybody drinking anything today?
Got water.
I am drinking some Japanese Fanta.
Ooh.
Sweet.
Yeah. My wife, Christmas, one of the gifts she got me was a subscription to Tokyo Treat, which is like every month you get a box of snacks from Japan.
That's awesome.
I'm getting all these crazy like Kit Kat flavors. Like last one we got was cantaloupe flavored Kit Kats, which are really good. This though, it just kind of tastes like regular orange Fanta. I can't really tell it's good. I haven't had Fanta in years, but it's very similar, if not identical, to the orange Fanta you can get here. That's good.
Now I was just drinking some mango pineapple juice in my Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom collector's glass. You see it's kind of faded there because it's so old.
Nice.
All right. So, welcome, Susan, for watching, being here with us. I do believe, Susan, tell me if you got your digital copy of the book that I sent you for me suckering you into watching Casino Royale. I think Susan was the only person who took advantage of that deal. Nobody else really. I guess nobody else was put off enough, or they enjoyed it, or they just didn't fall for it. They said, "No, I'm not doing that." And also to Douglas, who won the copy of Raiders of the Lost Ark. That baby should have appeared in your mailbox a few days ago. So all contest recipients have received their prizes to date. Okay, let's get into this movie. Because again, I went into this baby blind, not having seen any of the films. Before we came on air, I was talking to Lizzie about it, and I said, you know what, I'm kind of glad that I didn't see anything, because I wanted this prequel to really surprise me, to really just not have any expectations. A lot of times with prequels, they have to walk this line of, okay, they have to set up a story that you already know, but still try to surprise you with things. And in this case, the story didn't have to surprise me. They didn't have to set up anything that I knew, because I don't know anything. And so the movie didn't have to do any of that for me. So first, let me start. I know Lizzie's got thoughts. Dave, let's start with you. What did you think of the movie?
I enjoyed it. I've seen the original two, I think, once each, and it's been a couple years. For some reason, I thought they both came out after Spectre, so since not the most recent Bond, the previous, but first one I think was 2014, so that was the year before Spectre came out. For me, as obviously a huge James Bond fan, they're kind of like I view them as like a nice snack to tide me over between Bond movies. I remember from what I do remember of the first two, I feel like the first two were a lot more like outrageously violent. Like this one was violent, but as far as like gore and just ridiculous blood splattering and people's heads exploding, it was a lot. The first two I remember being, particularly the first one, a lot raunchier too than this one. This one is not as sexed up as the first two. But I mean, I really enjoyed this one. I love Ray Fiennes. I think he's great and he's a little bit, I had to look it up at the end of the movie. He's a little younger than I thought he was. He's not even 60. I think he's 58 or 59. So that means in the Bond movies, he's only a couple years older than Daniel Craig. You always get the impression, like in the earlier Bond movies with Sean Connery, that Bernard Lee, who played the original M, is like, 30 or so years old. Like he could be like his father. This one, they're just a couple years apart, even though they kind of make it out to be that Ray Fiennes, at least in Spectre and No Time to Die, is like a good deal older than them. But in real life, they're only a few years apart. Really great action, a lot of Bond, not a lot, but there's a handful of Bond alumni in this one. You've got Ray Fiennes, obviously. You have Gemma Arterton, who's Polly in this movie, and she played Agent Fields in Quantum of Solace. You have Charles Dance, who was in For Your Eyes Only. He has a small part in that one. He also, I don't watch the show, but apparently he's in Game of Thrones. If either fans of that, and he was also the main antagonist in what I consider to be the criminally underrated Last Action Hero with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I love that movie. He's great in that movie. He's basically playing like a main Bond villain combined with a Bond henchman in that movie, and he's just chews the scenery in every scene that he's in. But yeah, this was obviously it takes place in a much different time period, over 100 years ago. Since the original ones took place in the present day. It just felt like a little bit more toned down version of the first two. So, Elliot, if this one interested you enough to go back and now see the first two, I'll let you know they are much more violent. They're more outrageous, over the top, a lot sexier than this one, raunchier than this one. But I had a lot of fun with this movie. And it was also nice, even though the movie was over 2 hours, it was also nice to sit down and enjoy an action movie that's not bordering on 3 hours long, a comic book based movie that's not nearly 3 hours. So that was nice too.
Just to chime in briefly about The Last Action Hero, yes, that is an underrated film. I know, directed by John McTiernan. The two things it had going against it: Last Action Hero will come out like a week or two after Jurassic Park.
Yes, and apparently Arnold was pushing very hard to change the release date, which apparently they clearly should have listened to him, because it did not do well at the box office. So yeah, that's one of the things for sure.
If you saw Jurassic Park 1 week and then went in the next week to watch Last Action Hero, you were unfortunately, you were quite underwhelmed. Mind you, I have seen the movie since then.
Yeah. And
it just gets better when I see it, with the exception of the kid. That's the other thing that's going against it. That kid is annoying as fuck. I mean, they totally miscast that kid. The whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm going, why didn't they cast Macaulay Culkin? Can you imagine?
That's good.
Can you imagine an action movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Macaulay Culkin?
Yeah.
You'd be like, holy crap. And
I don't think that kid went on to do anything else. He's only known for that movie.
Yeah, because I'm going, but then, what's the other movie that everyone knows Macaulay Culkin for outside of Home Alone is My Girl.
Yeah.
And The Bees.
Yeah.
So.
At least Jake Lloyd has The Phantom Menace and Jingle All the Way.
That's true. All right, Lizzie. Now, when we were talking about this, and I remember and for folks who aren't aware, this is actually a very last-minute program change for Shaken Not Heard, because with this show, we have plans, and like Bond, we find the plans don't work. We got to toss them out, do something new. So in this case, we couldn't get enough together for the themes or the henchmen. So I noticed, look, Kingsman's on Hulu. I can now finally watch it. And I saw Lizzie at the office, and I go, do you want to talk about the show this weekend? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but what are we going to talk about? Kingsman's on Hulu. And you were like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because why were you so excited to see this film?
Okay. I know where you're leading, but I'm going to preface with, because I saw the first two.
Right.
And I fell in love with the first one. The second one kind of let me down a little bit, but I was like cautiously optimistic for the prequel, mainly because it was a news story, a prequel, but also because one of the baddies was Rasputin. And I adore Rasputin. Like he's a fascinating character who always he's Rasputin. I love Rasputin. One of my notes, you mentioned Charles Dance. The first thing I wrote, I took notes, was, you can't see, but the first one is Charles Dance with 3 exclamation points. And then not farther longer is Rasputin in all caps with 4 exclamation points. Like, it's Rasputin. So I was really excited because I was like, I, like Dave, haven't seen the other two. And I got it's very much a toned down prequel. As compared to the originals. And the concept of a Kingsman movie with Rasputin in it, I was like, this is going to be amazing. I wasn't let down. I'll put it that way. One of my notes, I'm going to read you the notes. I wrote the quote of "It's time to kill Grigory Rasputin," end quote. And I wrote, "This is exactly, underlined exactly what I came here for." And then the next thing I wrote was, "The fight with Rasputin was everything I wanted and more," because that like campiness of him doing a like Russian dance while fighting these people and having that music in the background, like that is the kind of Kingsman ridiculousness that I adore. So I was very excited about that. And I just kind of liked the concept of retconning actual history and making it like, oh, it's like Forrest Gumpy of like all of these things happened, but you didn't know that this is what the catalyst was. So I was really excited to see it. And I really enjoyed it. I agree with Dave that it is toned down, and that is kind of, if I was missing something, it is that like both of the previous two have like a big fight sequence. I'm specifically thinking of the church scene in the first movie, which is still one of my favorite things to happen ever in an action movie. But then like the last half of the Golden Circle is also really just like battle heavy and just like cool stuff and campy and stylized and all of that stuff, which I do feel like we kind of missed out on in this film. But in the previous films, they had kind of like big scenes, and this felt like they had more like mini boss fights of like you're fighting one person and then one person and then one person, which was fun. And I enjoyed the like little Easter eggs that Elliot you would have not necessarily picked up on, but there were comments and things like when Ralph Fiennes said like, "We are Oxfords, not rogues." I was like, because that is a reference to things that have like in the prequels. I mean, in the regular ones, you're like, oh, that's where that came from, because you're always kind of like, where did that come from? So all of those little like Easter eggs, I was excited by. And I just, I thought it was fun. And I would be happy to see another. That mid-credit scene set me up in a way where I was like, yes. Because I think they did a lot with this movie. But I feel like in some ways they did like not enough and then too much. Because
wait a second. I didn't realize it was a mid-credit scene. I got to go back. I turned it off right after the credits started.
No,
rolling.
there's a mid-credit scene.
Okay.
I mean, it's not huge, but they basically set it up. Did you see it too?
Yeah, no, I'm so conditioned now for that kind of thing. Especially with Matthew Vaughn, who is like, he's a big comic dork. So he's like, oh, we've got to give folks an extra scene. So I'm sorry, Lizzie, go on.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say they kind of set it up to do like a second prequel.
Okay.
And I would be really interested to see where they go with that, because just like, I know they had to get to that final scene around the table of, everyone becoming like Arthur and Lancelot and Galahad and all of that stuff. But I'm also kind of like, there's more to the lore that I want to know how it gets there. Like the whole, I don't, it's hard because I don't want to spoil it for Elliot for the first movie, but like the point of the first movie, I feel like we can have how that tradition started in a second movie, because there are going to be people who, like in the first movie, the King of England is not on the team, and at the end of this one, the King of England is on the team. So like, how does it segue out to the king not being included in it? And I think because the mid-credit scenes it's kind of setting up for a World War II situation, which would be.
I would love World War II.
Right.
Have Ian Fleming pop up in a cameo.
It would be my dream to have a Kingsman World War II situation. But also, if you think about it, like at that point, I'm a history nerd. And so the other thing that Charles Dance was in that I adored was he was in one of the later seasons of The Crown as what's the guy that the Irish hate? Oh my gosh. Dickie, his name. I know, but
Take a number.
No, I know. No, but they bombed him in a boat, and I can't remember his name. But Charles Dance played that guy.
The
And
character who played in this movie.
is that him? No.
Is that, okay. A different person?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
no, they bombed him in a boat. Like in real life, Ireland, the IRA bombed somebody
Okay. All right.
in a boat. And that's who Charles Dance played in The Crown. And his like last thing is reading a letter, because he's clearly a very well trained actor and stage actor, and his voice is just fantastic. And I'm really glad he had a letter moment in this one. Where was I going?
Mountbatten. He plays Lord
Mountbatten. There you go, Lord Mountbatten. But in The Crown, they kind of did the backstory of Edward VIII abdicating for George the whatever, I don't know the lines, but the king who was only a king for like 1936 and then got abdicated because he wanted to marry a divorced woman, that he's also was like a German spy basically. So I think that would be really interesting and a way to weave in that like this is why the king is no longer, but they're still the Kingsmen. I just feel like there'd be a lot of meat there. And it'd be really fun to retcon World War II and have it be like, oh no, but actually behind it all was Ralph Fiennes. So I would love that. But yeah, it did feel like if you wanted a full prequel and have it be one movie and be like, you have all the info as to how things happened, they didn't quite get there. But if they were always planning it to be this like two-parter, power to you.
Yeah.
That's what I got the sense of. I got the sense that Matthew Vaughn's got an idea for another one. He definitely has an idea for a World War II one, because you can't do a World War I and not follow up with a World War II.
It's the better war.
Yeah, really. And I wanted to do a little research about all the bits, not so much the historic signposts that the movie hits along the way, but just again, the chronology of things, because there are a lot of times when movies take a little dramatic license with what's going on to make it seem like this could lead to that. And you're like, yeah, okay. To make it work in the world of the Kingsmen, you have to have the freaking president of the United States susceptible to blackmail, which brings me to my my perspective on this film, which was, okay, I did enjoy it. Like you, Dave. Yeah. It was fun to see a movie that was like 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And it didn't feel like a 2-hour movie. It moved along. There was always something happening. Although I did check my phone from time to time, because I was like, okay, they're doing this. Let me see something here real quick. That's just the nature now of home entertainment. Although I did pause the movie whenever the dog needed something or needed to go out, because I didn't want to really miss anything. So there you go, right there. The fact that I actually paused it instead of getting up and leaving the room and coming back. I'm just saying, whatever. No, I did actually pause it because the story did interest me. Mm-hmm. Ray Fiennes and the rest of the crew were giving some great performances. Who played the son? Is that Aaron Taylor Johnson? No, that was Harris Dickinson.
Yeah.
This kid was really good. And I love how they cast him after you see him as a young boy, and then you flash ahead, 12 years, and you see him as a young man. I'm like, oh, they even found kids that kind of look alike, although all British kids look alike to me. So whatever. Most of the motivations for the characters made sense. Mm-hmm. I will say a couple things. One, they did play it a little fast and loose with history, in my opinion. The movie starts out as this whole thing where Ray Fiennes' character wants to make it that kids don't go to war. We think war is bad. We're going to do it. He's doing everything he can to prevent the nation, the world, to be plunged into war. By the end of the movie, he's like, no, we need there to be a big war. Because, spoiler alert, it's like a part of it is that he's working like the devil to make sure the America, there's like, let's not have America, or let's have Russia get out, or Russia stay in, or something. I forget. Then that's the other thing I was kind of confused. Like, wait, they want him in or they want him out? Okay, they did this whole thing where they want the Americans to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
But he won't get involved. Ah, crap. But then, oh, wait, he does want to get involved? No, do we want the Americans involved or not? Whatever. Until at the very end, it's like, no, we need America in World War, get involved in the Great War so that finally the war can end. I don't know. Okay, fine. So that got a little bit nutty for me. But along the way, there were these great performances, these great stunt set pieces. Yes. The fight with Rasputin was hilarious.
So good.
I was like, but it was good. I mean, there were like stakes to it. You're like, holy shit, this Rasputin guy, he ain't going down. I mean, I like the bit when he first walks into the room and he's like gliding on his feet. And I thought no one was going to mention it. Like, oh, this dude's just like weird. He can glide. But, Ray Fiennes says, oh, so are you a monk or a ballerina? It looks like you've mastered the art of whatever floating, whatever. Like, that was very Bondish to me, Dave. You know how James Bond seems to know every fucking deal, everything, and I'll look at you and go, oh yeah, that robe you're wearing was made from wool that originated from the
that was a very Roger Moore thing. He was always
very right, yes,
every possible subject.
Yeah.
And then Kashmir. Where's this Kashmir from?
Yeah.
To be fair, I really loved that moment because one of the questions I always had was like, because they purchased it at the end of this movie, but in the original movie, they go to a tailor shop and it's one of the secret headquarters of of the Kingsmen. And I was always like, why a tailor shop? Like, I get it, but also like and I really loved that it played such a part of this of no, genuinely, it's where you go to get your suits. But then the fact that they brought the cashmere to them and said, where is this cashmere from? I really appreciated that moment because I was like, oh, these tailors really are part of it. It gave a reason for it to be that tailor shop. I don't know. I liked it.
It all fit together. I mean, it made sense to me. Just, again, if you surrender yourself to the ridiculousness of that kind of thing, which, let's be honest, the James Bond movies have conditioned me for. I mean, I will put these Kingsman movies fit perfectly in the Bond universe type thing. It's like these feel like a parallel universe to Bond. So Dave, if you say Ian Fleming showing up in the next Kingsman prequel would make perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
Perfect sense. Like, hell, have him be part of the group. And a lot of the stories he writes are based on an agent that's in there. I mean, I bet you Matthew Vaughn's probably thinking about that.
Yeah.
He's going to have a character that's going to be kind of like a proto-Bond type character.
If they do one set in during World War II, that would
I would love it so much.
Yeah.
That would fit right in. Susan comments, a man from U.N.C.L.E. had a tailor shop. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they did. And so it's Matthew Vaughn pulling in all these elements from different spy franchises and making them fit in his little bit and making it accessible to everyone. The wing walking scene when Ray Fiennes' character has to parachute onto the top of a mountain.
Yeah.
I'm like, and again, you suspend disbelief. You go, okay, look, parachuting alone is hard. And you've never parachuted before in your entire life. We're talking, he's got probably one of the first parachutes. And he's like, let's just jump. I'm just going to jump out of a plane and land on top of a mountain, which is not easy.
But see, part of why I loved that is because if you'd seen the other two have probably more ridiculous. I think Dave would agree with me that some absolutely bonkers conceits that you really have to be like, what? Okay. No. So I really loved that because I was like, yeah, do the crazy thing where you're the only person in a plane and you have to jump off and be on a wing. Oh, it was delightful.
But I did like that because, mind you, there was in the original script for Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, there was a wing walking scene for him. Frank Darabont wrote that. And they're going, Matthew Vaughn went, well, Indiana Jones didn't use it. We're going to use it.
Yeah.
But it was fun, and it was still fun. And I will say that even that whole bit with, I don't want to, again, if you haven't seen it, watch the movie. It's kind of ridiculous, but to me, it didn't get like too far. But there were times where like, holy shit. I was like, it gave me like some jumps, like, oh God, it's getting worse.
Yeah.
There's a question. Since you are a history buff, is historically was Rasputin purported to be gay in real life?
Listen. Yes, Rasputin was insane, like the craziest figure in history. He was like reported to sleep with like everyone, and so he was the thing. The real reason now that time has passed that they think that he was like so. Because at first they were like, oh, the Tsar didn't like him, or they didn't like him being with the Tsar, whatever, because he was with the wife. But now everyone's like, no, he was with both of them. And they just like kind of like pitted it against each other. And the thing I loved most about that scene is one of my favorite things about Rasputin in general is that he was shot multiple times, poisoned, and drowned. But they say that he like shoved into a frozen river. But they say that he really died of like freezing to death. Like not drowning, not being shot, not the poison. And it's probably because he was hopped up on a ton of opioid at the time. So he was just like invincible. But I really loved that in this movie, they had like all of those moments of he won't die. And just and it kind of followed the same trajectory of like, oh, they had the freezing, they had the poison, they had the guns, they had all this stuff. I was like, yay. So you're retconning it and you're like, this is definitely not what happened in real life, but you have the same, like, you're paying that much homage to history of like, yes, that is what happened. Same with like Ferdinand, like that's not how it went down, but kind of is how it went down. Like you're like, okay, the bare facts are there. But no, Rasputin was he was an equal opportunist. We'll put it that way.
Okay. It's almost a contrast to many of the Bond villains who they almost imply are either impotent or like have no interest in sex. Yeah. And here you have a guy that's willing to have sex with anything.
Yes. Yes. That's the best way to put that.
Yeah. And that scene, there is a scene in the movie, I'm sure you picked up on this as well, when he's kind of when they're eating the tart or whatever, and Ray finds his pants are off and he's got the bullet hole in his leg. That was like, oh, this is Bond and Javier Bardem Silva in Skyfall.
Yep.
Like where he's like trying to like test him and see how far he's willing to go. It's like almost beat for beat from that scene in Skyfall when they first meet each other.
But then they take it like a little farther than Bond would ever take it. And that's what I love about the Kingsman franchise.
Wait, a little farther?
No, but that's what I mean. But that's where it's like that's what I kind of love about Kingsman, because when I like every time I interact with it, I'm like, it's Bond, but 14 times Bond. Like, you know, it's like everything's dialed up to 11, and it's just fun in that sense because and we've had this conversation on the Bond, like the Spectre chat that we had of like how it's kind of like serious now, and they kind of Bond kind of got into the like, you know, what's it called? Austin Powers was like too funny, and then like just roasting them, and then you have like the Bourne movies taking everything super seriously. So Bond kind of had to shift towards this like take it seriously. And while there are some like outrageous concepts that you do have to kind of accept the reality of the movie, it is very serious in it. And that's part of what I loved about Kingsman, because it was like Bond, but able to do the ridiculousness without it being an Austin Powers kind of situation. So you have the like campy Rasputin fight where he's like licking someone's thigh and making you uncomfortable. But then you also have the like gravitas of the trenches moment. And you're like, okay, so you can do both of it and not have it be who is number two, who does number 2 work for?
Yeah, I was going to say, if there's one thing I would like the Kingsman franchise to rub off on the Bond series, is I would like. I've said this a million times before. I would prefer if whatever the next iteration of Bond is a little lighter, a little more fun. Like it can it can be serious. It could have those moments of seriousness and melodrama, but that shouldn't dominate the whole thing. Like make it a little more, some more obvious moments of kind of ludicrousness without it veering totally into like, self-parody, things like Austin Powers. So maybe, Matthew Vaughn to direct a future Bond movie.
Oof. But only after the World War II prequel sequel.
Yeah. That's the priority.
Yeah.
So in other words, Dave, you're saying they should go back to the Pierce Brosnan era.
Yeah, but good. Like that tone, but with better scripts.
Better scripts.
There you go.
Man, I'm getting down on my boy Pierce.
Speaking of Bond connections, and Lizzie, I texted this to Elliot last night. We've talked before about who the next Bond actor should be. How about Aaron Taylor Johnson, who has a small part in this, and probably best known for playing Quicksilver in Age of Ultron. But I looked him up. First of all, I don't think I realized he's English. I thought maybe he was putting like on an accent for this, but then I realized not everyone else they got they're British or Irish or Scottish, so he must be. And he's only 31, so and he's got the look, obviously. So, like we mooted the Harry Styles conversation, only half jokingly, I think. It's like he's only a year or two younger than that. Like, and Aaron Taylor Johnson, one of those guys that people have seen him in things, but not necessarily like a household name. Like if someone might recognize his face but not know his actual name, like that could be the thing that shoots him to like superstardom as being the next James Bond. And I think the main thing is he's got the looks. He could be he's an action star. He's the right age too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's one of the comments that I had of like things that were lacking about this movie for me were it like in the thing of like doing too much. I wanted more with Aaron Taylor Johnson. Like I was like, okay, you did the swap and all of this stuff, but he was there for like 2 shots, maybe.
Yeah,
like he like
cameo, really.
Right. And I was like, but I wanted more with that, but that's where it's like that's where they're doing too much. Like I know they had to do whatever, but if they kind of had pulled him into the final like takedown, that would have made like, I mean, I'm glad he shows up at the end, but like I kind of wanted him in the final takedown too, of like, this is really how you're forming your Kingsman.
Yeah.
It's a good. They could be setting him up also for the next movie. I mean,
I think they are, but I think that if they did, it would have been a stronger setup if they had included him a little bit more in this movie. But I also loved Stanley Tucci's little cameo too.
Yeah, Elliot, he could be Aaron Taylor Johnson. Could be that Fleming type character in the 1940s film, the World War II film.
Yeah,
it's amazing how different he looks with the blonde hair versus so no, you're right. I see it. I totally see it. I mean,
well, and because it looks like in some of these photos he's not quite as like huge, but he gets swole pretty easily, it looks like. He can be the Bond.
And Daniel Craig is really the first Bond. They turn him into like this mound of muscle.
Right.
Like all the other guys were like in shape, good shape, and lean and everything, but they weren't like when you first see Bond come out of the water in Casino Royale, where he just in trunks. Like no Bond had ever looked like that before. There's not really a precedent where he needs to look like that. So if they went back to like the pre-Daniel Craig era, and almost how he's not really described at all in that way in the novels. He doesn't have to be like I've seen like Henry Cavill, who has been suggested a million times. It's not going to happen, but he would be a good Bond. Like he's just such a huge dude, and he's Superman. So he's
also The Witcher.
You get a toned down a little bit, downsize a little bit, because it's almost like, of course, he's not going to be unassuming if he's this guy that could take down anyone in any room he walks into.
Yeah. Henry Cavill. He's like too big.
I like Henry Cavill though. I think
No, I do too. I love. I'm really a fan of The Witcher, and
Mhm.
he is fantastic in that. So
Yeah. He also seems like a really down to earth guy in real life, which is cool.
yeah,
He gets Superman. I
Yeah.
just wish the people who were directing him and giving him scripts
got Superman.
got
as
Superman.
Yeah.
When you hear Henry Cavill talk about Superman, you're like, okay, this guy really gets the character. They just don't give him the material to really play the character. I think that the one who came closest, and I know people don't like him these days, but it was Joss Whedon.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. There's
Yeah.
not much positive I can say about his Justice League, his version of Justice League.
Mhm.
When Superman comes back from the dead and he's like cracking jokes and he's
Yep.
like, that's what he's supposed to be like.
That's Superman.
There's got to be that obvious contrast between him and Batman, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, well, by the way, that's the first time I've been able to use share screen during a broadcast and actually show.
Nice.
I was like, oh, that worked.
There you go.
So yeah, I had fun with it, and I agree with you, Dave. The challenge now for the Bond films, if they're going to keep making Kingsman films, and I don't see why Matthew Vaughn's going to stop, because they're making the movies.
Mm-hmm.
The movies are making money. He's having fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's his own little world that he gets to play with. But I feel like the Bond movies are now going to have to react to the Kingsman movies, just like they had reacted to the Austin Powers films.
Yeah.
Like you said, Lizzie, you know, they went from being, you know, parodying themselves, because as I was watching the Kingsman, I was there going, there is nothing in this movie that I couldn't see them not doing in a Bond film. Okay, the Rasputin bit over the top. Okay, I mean,
so you really need to see Secret Service though, because there's a lot in that movie that Bond would not do.
Okay, we'll see. I will see it, and I will report back, because you know what, we're gonna have to do another episode on the Kingsman films. We're just gonna have to do the Kingsman movies now. Okay, that's what I'm getting from this.
Yeah,
but that whole bit with I can't see. Okay, is it just me? Was it just me, folks? Or did that wound on Ray Fiennes' leg just have a certain pattern to it that suggested something? So when Rasputin was doing his healing of the leg, it was suggesting something else. And I was like,
saying it, I can't not see it.
All I know is if you're ever doing that sort of thing and then you end up vomiting at the end, that completely ruins the mood. Sorry, Lizzie.
I just what do you say to that? But yeah, fair. I will say though, in contrast to the other movies, like the previous Kingsman movies, because one of the notes that I had at the very end of watching it was like, as a woman, I feel like they respected me the most in this movie, because there's a lot of raunchy stuff in other films. So I was kind of like, okay, well, go there. But for it, again, with Rasputin, it's equal opportunity. So you go there and have it not be just entirely leaning towards misogyny that the other movies kind of leaned towards. So it was,
unfortunately, the spy genre in general tends to lean that way.
Exactly.
Where the Bond stuff goes that way, not so much the Mission Impossible movies. The Mission Impossible movies are pretty balanced there. The Bourne movies, well, women are an afterthought in the Bourne movies.
Yeah.
They don't really do anything. And I have not seen any of the I saw a couple of I did finally see Jack Ryan with the Ben Affleck version. Jack Ryan's Sum of All Fears. which starts really good. And I was like, wow, this movie is way better than I expected. And then at the halfway point, everything that I liked about the movie, it decides to throw out the window and just get stupid ridiculous. And I was like, oh, God, man, why can't they make a decent Jack Ryan movie now? I mean, ever since Harrison Ford left the franchise, they just can't seem to get it together. That was my thing with this particular film, that the first half of the movie was so solid and well put together, and everything just fit together nicely. And then as it starts setting up the third act, the wheels just started falling off. Mind you, I was still enjoying it. I was like, whatever. You know, I'm having fun. It wasn't like Eternals, where the movie from the beginning, I mean, the setup was suspect, and then as it kept going and going, I'm going, is this ever going to get better? Is this ever going to get better? And it doesn't. It never gets better. Especially for a movie which so many people praise and saying, well, you don't like this film because it's so different from the Marvel movies. And when they do something when they try to make a different Marvel movie, you don't like it. No, it's not that I don't like different. I just want good. I want entertaining. You know, I want characters I'm going to care about. I want heroes I can root for. I want stakes. Eternals had none of that. At least with the Kingsman, I cared about most of the characters. I mean, Ray Fiennes, his character goes through so many peaks and valleys. Mm-hmm. And when you get to the bit when you find out I don't want to give too many spoilers here, but when you finally see what happens, what his son learns and how he learns about the reality of war.
Yeah.
And as you said, that scene in the trenches, oh my God. I mean, I'd seen Dunkirk, which is really good.
Yeah.
And while the war scenes in the Kingsman didn't have the same level of gritty realism, they were like hyper realism.
Right.
I love, there's this bit in the very beginning where they show like the English countryside. There was Europe. It was England. I want to say it was England or somewhere in Europe. They say what we thought would have taken us 10 years to do, we did in a year. Yeah. It was like the devastation that war brings upon a country and its people. And you literally see the landscape change. And I thought it was brilliant the way they did that.
Yeah.
So I'm like going, okay, oh, wow. War is bad. Oh, this is so, I mean, I was really getting into it because it was also asking some really great philosophical questions. It was talking about, let's face it, talking about privilege keeps you out of trouble.
Yeah.
Wars are fought by the poor.
Mm-hmm.
This whole thing, die for your country. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a piece of crap because you look at how wars have been fought throughout the decades. You look back at every single war. You know, it's in the end, it's really bullshit. I mean, the only one that people point to and say, well, World War II, because we had to stop Hitler. And let's be honest, the Americans didn't stop Hitler. The Russians stopped Hitler. You know, in the U.S., Americans, we like to pat ourselves on the back and say, yeah, we beat Hitler. No, we were fighting the Japanese.
Yeah.
The Russians were fighting, and the British were fighting Hitler. So,
yeah. As Bart Simpson said, the only good wars were the American Revolution, World War II, and the Star Wars trilogy.
The original Star Wars trilogy.
Oh Lord!
And so that whole first half, I'm like, oh, this is really good. I'm loving what they're saying and they're doing here. And then it seemed like the movie forgot what it was about, and it was like, okay, or maybe like Matthew Vaughn said, nah, you know what? I don't want people to think I'm an anti-war hippy dippy. Let's because you have Roosevelt saying at the end, America's going to war. I'm like. But we just said in the first half of the movie how bad that is and how we don't want our kids dying in war. So now
it's interesting because like it does feel, but it almost feels like they stuck a war movie in the prequel rather than the prequel was supposed to be that commentary on war. Like if you think of where they had to get to this creation of the Kingsman Secret Service. And so like I appreciated the story. I did like the backstory does make it reasonable as to why, like, you know, like he wants to make sure that wars don't happen. So they try to have their secret service that's above governments and why it's above governments and all this stuff. But it does feel like, just coming from having seen the previous movies, the like originals, the end felt more like a Kingsman movie, and like the Rasputin part felt more like a Kingsman movie, and then all of the stuff in the trenches and the philosophical war stuff felt like, what? We're okay. You're just okay. We're going there. All right. But it didn't necessarily feel like it was supposed to be in a Kingsman prequel. I mean, one of the notes that I wrote was surprisingly poignant for a Kingsman movie. Because I was like, oh, so we're going from this like ridiculous, and that note is right after the fight with Rasputin was everything I wanted and more. The next thing I wrote was like surprisingly poignant. And I was like, oh, so we're going there. All right. Like so it was appreciated, but it's like interesting to hear your like comments on it, because as someone who this is your first entree into the series, it'll be interesting to see how you react to the other ones, because I like it doesn't really follow like that part doesn't really follow it into the regular stuff. I mean, there are moments where you're like, I mean, I teared up a little bit in this movie, and nothing in the other Kingsman movies even got me close to, unless I was laughing so hard that I cried. Which did probably happen.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to see how they approached it this time.
I mean, if the movie wanted to entertain you, it certainly succeeds there. I mean, this is an entertaining movie. Is it a perfect movie? No. I would say if I ranked out of 4 stars, I give this movie like 2.5 stars. So was it boring? No way. Were you saying, oh, this movie was a total waste of the cast, like my buddy James Van Osdale said on his Facebook page? It's funny. I guess we were both watching it at the same time, because he posted it. He said he was talking about it on his Facebook page just as I was watching it, and I just finished it. I'm like, yeah, okay, I can see where you're coming from. I mean, this movie has a lot of really talented people in it, and it's kind of all over the place. But I still enjoyed it. Had I gone to the theater to watch it, I don't know, I might have enjoyed it as much, because again, there's a lot of really good stuff in this movie. There are a couple of warts here and there, but I'm not going to sit there and go, oh my God, this is a piece of crap. How did I waste my time watching this? It was still fun.
That makes me want to. I looked up Rotten Tomatoes after, because I was curious after that so I was curious after the mid-credit scene of like, are they planning a Kingsman prequel too? And they're actually planning to film Kingsman 3 this year. So like back with Eggsy and Harry. But all of the article titles that I read for like movie reviews did not seem flattering. So I went to Rotten Tomatoes to see what the score was, and it was a 43% critic score, but an 80% audience score. And that, I feel like, sums up what you're saying right now. Like, is the script super tight? No. Were there moments where the green screen literally took me out of the film? Cough, cough, the very end. Yes. And there were definitely, like, and there were things like, as someone who doesn't know that much of Kingsman, Elliot, like, you thought the movie was supposed to be one thing, and as someone coming from like the Kingsman background, thought it was going to be something else, but both of them kind of didn't work. But it was still a fun enough movie for the audience to say, yeah, 80% of us are like, yeah, go see this movie. And that feels like it really sums this up that much. I think, honestly, if I saw it in theaters, I would have had a great time. But I also don't know if that's because I saw Golden Circle in theaters and walked out kind of like, huh. So going back to see this, I like Kingsman, the Secret Service is obviously my number one, but then this definitely in like out of the 3 that have been released, I would definitely put the prequel above Golden Circle. Okay. So I probably would have come out of the theater and been like, oh, yes, this is more what I wanted out of a Kingsman movie. But it had holes, had problems, but nothing that made it unwatchable.
I like that the goat got revenge.
I wrote that in here. I wrote Yas, Yaas, underlined 3 times, the goat, because I wanted a Lion King moment, but then it ended up being better. Like, I really wanted like a punt moment, but the goat was a better situation.
Yeah, it was good. Those poor goats, but the goats got to do their thing. CGI goats, mind you. I mean, it was really obvious that they weren't real goats. I mean, when you see enough,
Right.
but the I will say the goat CGI in this movie was as impressive as the eagle CGI was in Peacemaker, which is really right now will be the most impressive animal CGI I will have seen in I don't know how long, until I finally see the next Jurassic Park film. So, which I gotta say, if you've seen the trailer for Jurassic Park Dominion, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
That's the one with the OG cast, right?
They're bringing back the OGs. They have the OGs, they have the new cast and the original cast coming together.
Which is something we never got to see in the new Star Wars trilogy.
Nope.
I wanted was a scene with Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher together on screen in the
Never happened.
space. We never got that.
Which Mark Hamill himself wished. He goes, it would have been nice to have that happen just once.
Yeah.
And he got roasted for it online for just suggesting it. I'm like, and people are like, oh, you don't want to pass, why don't you let the new actor shine? Shut up.
Right. They're wrong.
I'm tired of people. You know what? You make a fucking $1 billion franchise and become a household name, then you can criticize.
Exactly.
Okay? Yeah. Anyone comes from Mark Hamill, I will have words with them.
Don't worry, Mark Hamill can handle himself. I follow him on Twitter, and it is delightful.
Oh yeah, he is.
It's just delightful.
He is awesome. He's cool.
Yeah.
Although actually, it's his daughter Chelsea who handles a lot of his social media.
Okay, well, she's delightful.
She is delightful too. I've met her. She is quite delightful. All right. What were I had some other thoughts about the Kingsman. I did not take notes. I should have taken notes. I know.
Well, can I tell you something that I think maybe neither of you would have been afflicted by, but I was?
Go on.
The guy who plays the King of England, and he's like all three of them. He is also in Pride and Prejudice, the 05 version, as Collins, and he is the bad guy in Pirates of the Caribbean 3. So the entire time I was watching it, I was like, is he going to be a bad guy? So unlikable in the other two movies that I've seen him in that I was like, he just codes bad to me or like, don't trust him. I don't know. So it was really funny. But at the same time, I was like, you're finally in a role where you're not like the person that people aren't supposed to like. But the entire time I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to get the ick from you, but I do because of who you were in the previous movies that I've seen you in.
Yeah.
So.
That's kind of like the gimmick of casting Harrison Ford in What Lies Beneath.
Yeah.
That you will never for the life of you think that he could ever be the bad guy.
Yeah.
The bad guy.
Real quick shout outs to our viewing audience on Facebook. Of course, Susan, thanks for joining us. Kathleen, thanks for being here. Lehman, thanks for joining us for this special Sunday afternoon edition of Shaken Not Heard. Yes, folks, we are normally here on Monday nights, but scheduling made this necessary. Plus, I can finally sit in my family room next to my router where I don't have to worry about my signal dropping out, and I won't fade into the darkness like I did in the very first episode. If you go to the video archive on the Shaken Not Heard Facebook page, go to our very first episode. Dave and I are talking about Dr. No, and you will see the strange thing where Dave's image seems to get brighter, whereas mine gets darker, and I start slowly receding into the darkness. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Lizzie. You were going to say something?
Dave was saying something, and I want to hear your thoughts.
Speaking of the villain,
what
was the villain's name? The Shepherd?
Yeah.
Yeah. The first time we see him, it was very Blofeld, very Spectre.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You only see it's not till the end of the movie they actually see his face. Every other time, every other scene, you only see him from behind with the bald head. But when all of his agents, his emissaries are around this table, it's like, oh, this is Spectre. This is the Spectre gathering in Thunderball and in Spectre. They even have the rings, everything. Yeah. And he's this unhinged guy who takes his rage. Well, in this one, he was taking it out on the goats. But it was like, oh man, they're totally cribbing this from Bond.
I was like, do they ever mention the name of the organization though? Because at one point I hear at the end, Ray Fiennes goes, "Okay, we're done cutting off the tentacles. Now we're going to take off the head." And I'm like, wait, did he?
Right.
Because that's also
I caught that too.
Yeah.
But I think it's more of a nod to the fact that it's clearly the Spectre organization than that there being a name for it. But because the imagery of like, you want it like octopus can grow their arms back, like it makes sense for him to make that analogy there. But I don't think it was ever like named. But then also, not to spoil the mid-credit scene for you, Dave, but in the mid-credit scene, somebody takes over the name of the shepherd. So I think that it's less a like Spectre organization and more like the shepherd and his sheep or his flock, whatever you want to call it, than a name of an organization. But it is very much Spectre. But I think they kind of did that on purpose, like, because it is a knockoff Bond movie, but it's like Bond that goes where Bond can't really go. And I think back to what you were saying, Elliot, I think you were saying it earlier of like, hopefully Bond will react to Kingsman and kind of get sillier. I think that's kind of in the difference. I see it, and I'm not a super hardcore Bond fan. So if you don't see it this way, I'm interested. But like, I see Austin Powers as like making fun of Bond and like really poking fun and like not in a not malicious way, but not from a place of love. It's more of a like, these movies are ridiculous, so we're going to make fun of it. I see Kingsman being more of a like, we're making fun of you with love. Like, we are taking what you are and making you ridiculous because we can, but we're not doing it because we think you're ridiculous. We're doing it with love. So I think that for the Bond franchise to kind of react to a Kingsman franchise, it would make itself better. You know, it would be like, since it's coming from a place of love, the changes that would be made would be like beneficial to, not that the reaction to Austin Powers made the films bad, but it did make them course correct to a point where they had to be like serious and dark and not make the dumb jokes and all that stuff. But I think they can be like, oh, we can poke fun at ourselves again. Like, Kingsman is almost taking the heat for going so far that anything we do isn't going to look that ridiculous because there's not like a goat impaling someone.
And I think the Austin Powers, there's a level of respect and affection for Bond, but at least those movies are straight up comedies. Whereas these, they have comedic elements, and there's certainly more comedy than in a Bond movie, but they still fall into that action genre more than anything. Yeah.
You watch the first Austin Powers. I only say this about the first one. You watch the first Austin Powers. It's almost they play 60s Bond almost too straight. Like, they're like, we don't need to do anything. Let's just do it just like they did it in the 60s. And when you change the context, you bring all that to a modern audience, you're going to go, oh, that's ridiculous. Now, mind you, Austin Powers 2 and number 3 definitely. It's like the Austin Powers movies are going, okay, now we got to go even further. It's like we got to get even more ridiculous. And the movies became all about the celebrity cameos and the puns on the different, James Bond villain names and the titles and all that. Yeah. But if you look at the very first Austin Powers movie, I'm like, okay, it's just funny, but man, this feels really like on Her Majesty's Secret Service. Because you watch on Her Majesty's Secret Service, George Lazenby even dresses like Austin Powers. I'm like, okay.
It sounds kind of like a Spinal Tap to the music industry situation where, like, if you're not in the music industry, Spinal Tap's just a hilarious movie. And even if you are kind of in the music industry, like I am, like, it is still a hilarious movie. But there's also a seed of sadness that goes with you because so many of those situations have happened for real in real life. And you're just like, they're not making this up. like bands have gotten stuck in weird eggs that haven't opened on stage before. And it's funny when you watch it in Spinal Tap, but when you're in the music industry, you're like, God, we are ridiculous. So yes, that's the seed of sadness is there.
Have either of you guys seen the movie Walk Hard?
No, I've been told I need to.
With John C. Reilly.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to see
It's
that.
one of the funniest movies ever made, at least in the last 15 or so years. And it's a parody of, I
Walk
mean,
the Line.
yeah, but it also makes fun of Ray and
like biopics.
and it's as he starts off as a kid or as like a teenager, and as his musical career changes, it's kind of parodying the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson and David Bowie, a bunch of other artists. And then I don't know if you saw earlier this week, they released the trailer for the new Elvis movie that's coming out. And I realized watching the movie that Walk Hard has ruined my ability to take those types of movies seriously. It parodied kind of the melodrama of those movies so well, the musical biopics, that now seeing another one, especially because there's moments in Walk Hard that's like it's clearly poking fun at Elvis. I can't take it serious. I mean, I want to see it, and I really hope it's good. But I think that movie ruined my ability to take those types of things seriously now.
Fair.
See, you're exactly what I was going through when we started shaking that herd, and I kept telling you when we were watching the Sean Connery movies in the beginning, it took me a while to shake Austin Powers out of my head.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this all looks like Austin Powers. This all looks like Austin Powers. Where's the joke?
Yeah.
Like to speaking of Spinal Tap, I remember when I first saw Spinal Tap, I mean, I was like, this really just feels like a documentary. Because even when you listened, because I remember I grew up in the hair metal era.
Stonehenge.
Yes, I'm listening to these songs. Like, what? I don't get the joke. These sound like legit metal songs to me.
I had the immense pleasure of seeing Blue Oyster Cult open for Aerosmith in 2010. It was amazing, just because of, you know what I mean? Like, it's Blue Oyster Cult and Aerosmith, amazing. But the only Blue Oyster Cult song that I was aware of was "Don't Fear the Reaper," obviously SNL. But I had seen Spinal Tap by that point because I was an 18-year-old. You see Spinal Tap pretty young. And I ended up literally just having an out-of-body experience because Blue Oyster Cult has a song like Stonehenge. They literally gave a speaking intro for like a minute and then went into a song. And I was like, oh my God, I'm watching Spinal Tap. Right. It was just like one of those where, and I was already aware that it was very much based in truth, but I was like, oh my God, you're the band. like give me the last final piece that was missing of like, where did this come from? Because all the other bands you can like point to it and be like, I mean like Fat Bottom Girl and and then you're just like Big Bottom. Like, but the thing about Spinal Tap that always made me is you could listen to that album and feel like you're listening to normal songs from the eras that they came out in. You're like, great.
Well, that's really good about Walk Hard is like it's a parody movie, but all the songs are really well written.
Yeah.
Super catchy, and they're very melodic, and they're perfect like interpretations or kind of mimics of whatever artist. Like there's a song where he's supposed to be like Roy Orbison, and there's like a David Bowie period and Bob Dylan. It's like these are well written songs. It just so happens they were written for like a parody comedy film.
That's how I feel about The Lonely Island. I think they write really good songs, but they're all so ridiculous that you're like, I can't like be a fan of this song, but you did a really good job with this song. Like they did an unauthorized Bash Brothers experience that was a play off of Lemonade by Beyonce. And so they had like, it was on Netflix and it was 30 minutes long or whatever it was, but it was, they had the like music videos and then it was genuinely Lemonade, but about the Bash Brothers. And those songs are like good. You can listen to them on your own, but then they're also just so ridiculously over the top that you're like, I can't listen to this in public because if my earphones are like too loud, people are going to hear this song and I can't do that.
The Lonely Island guys are actually involved with the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers reboot. If you haven't seen the trailer for that, it looks really good.
Especially the little indie reference. Yeah. I would appreciate.
They did the Indiana Jones reference. I'm waiting for the Magnum PI reference. Doing there. And I will say, not to make this all about Spinal Tap, but I did see Spinal Tap in person, in concert.
Really?
At the Riviera when they were touring to promote Break Like the Wind. Years and years ago, I remember my old boss, John, and I We did it on a whim. We saw that they were on tour. We said, let's just get some tickets. Let's get tickets. We would always quote Spinal Tap lines to each other because just so you know that it is one of the funniest movies out there. Spinal Tap gave birth to so many things, like not only the other like movies like Best in Show and Like a Mighty Wind, other movies that Christopher Guest would go on to direct using that same format. But I credit movies like Spinal Tap for the success of film of like something like The Office, where The Office was set up. You got a script, you got your folks did it, but then a lot of it was improv. You just got in there, you improv the scene to make it funny, but that was done first in This Is Spinal Tap. The ones who brought that up. But anyway, I remember we're at the Riviera. John and I are there. And at one point we looked at each other and we're going, did we just make the biggest mistake of our lives? Did we waste money to see this because this was just stupid?
No.
The place was full. And then it got surreal because it felt like it was suddenly in the Spinal Tap movie because people brought signs. They didn't come to the stage on time. They were late. People started chanting tap, 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 tap. And when the first song, Now I'm Gonna Rock You, Now I'm Gonna Rock You, that was
tonight I'm gonna rock it, tonight I'm gonna rock it, tonight I'm gonna rock it, tonight.
That's their opening song. And they all come in like on harnesses flying down, except for Christopher Guest, Nigel Tufnell, who can't land. He just kept going back and forth, back and forth. We were laughing, and it was the most surreal experience ever because these guys were playing their own instruments. I'm going to give Chris Guest, Mike McKeon, Harry Shearer. They all play their own instruments. Yes, after a while you'll notice that everything they play kind of sounds like they keep using the same chords over and over and over again. And they were freaking loud. They were one of the. I saw Living Color at the Aragon. My ears rang for days after that.
I saw Motorhead.
Well, see, Motorhead, that would be another one. Yeah. And I'm trying
like a week.
Damn Yankees, I saw them too at the Aragon. They were loud, but no, I think Spinal Tap was one of the loudest freaking bands I had ever heard, and but I'm just saying, it was a fun time. Yeah. The concert itself was a lot of fun, and again, watch the movie.
Yeah.
Gwen
Smalls also has his own album out that came out like a year or two ago, and it's like I'll have to Google the name
Freeform Jazz.
What? No, I wish, but it's like bass. I'm gonna Google it for you real quick while you do your.
Well, Gwen 10 Alien Force says the Walk Hard soundtrack slaps.
Yes, absolutely.
It does.
Hi, Gwen 10.
I believe we'll have both you and Gwen 10 back on in the future to talk about the Bond themes.
Yes. Where's my...
For those who want to watch Walk Hard, since we're giving this movie a plug, you can find it on Vudu, YouTube, Google Play, Apple TV, and Amazon Prime. It's on Amazon Prime. Well, guess what?
Sweet.
Guess what I'm watching tonight?
Guys, it's Smalls Change Meditations on Aging, by Derek Smalls.
Okay, so Harry Shearer did his own bit. Now, again, these guys play their own instruments. It is really impressive.
The first song's called Openture. I gotta listen to this album and then come back and tell you guys about it.
Because these guys are like so. Again, for those who don't know, Harry Shearer has been a long time voice on The Simpsons. Did Principal Skinner, Reverend Lovejoy, and a number of other. I'm sorry,
Mr. Burns.
Mr. Burns, yes, he does all. Of course, Mike McKeon. Has not only done a whole lot of comedy, but also drama. He has a supporting role in Better Call Saul. Christopher Guest has also done a lot of stuff, does a lot of directing, plays a really creepy medical examiner in A Few Good Men. Aaron Sorkin's A Few Good Men. That's where...
Isn't Christopher Guest also the Six-Fingered Man?
Yes, he's
Yeah.
a six-fingered man and married to Jamie Lee Curtis.
There you go.
Yeah. So good. All in all, really funny, good guy.
Yeah.
Let's bring this conversation back to the point at hand, which is
Kingsman. The King's Man. I mean,
the King's Man.
Yeah.
And do we have any further thoughts? Lizzie, you had a bunch of notes.
Yeah, I'm looking through them right now. I just need you guys to know that multiple times throughout watching it, I just wrote Charles Dance with exclamation points because I love him.
He sounds old age now. He very much sounds like Christopher Lee.
Yes. Maybe that's why I love him because I'm a Lord of the Rings.
I heard him speaking, not knowing it was him. Oh, it sounds just like Christopher Lee.
Yeah, he's so good. So most of these are like linear timeline of like I wrote it as I went, but then I like made a conscious decision to write because it stands out of time. The sound design was really great. And the moment that made me really think about that was the trenches scene. I was like, this sound design is just fantastic. But then I also just really love film scores. I do like that this is the same kind of music that was in the other. So it does play through. They didn't try and change it up for the prequel, which I really appreciated. I will say, and this is not a spoiler because the trailer for the first movie is Harry Hart saying manners maketh man. I was so surprised by who said it in this movie.
Mm.
I was waiting to hear it. And then when I heard it, I was like, oh, okay. You're going to give it to this person. Interesting. I'm trying to keep it like not spoilery, but also like enough for you guys to understand why I had that. And then
So manners make the man. Is that kind of like I have a very bad feeling about this in the Star Wars films?
It's more like the motto. It's like the motto of the Kingsman is manners maketh man.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's like in the trailer, I think I've told each of you this separately, but the first time I saw the trailer for Kingsman, the first movie, I was convinced I would hate it because it was just, this will make sense to Dave more so, but it was just the scene in the bar at the beginning of the first movie when he's like first talking to Eggsy. That was the trailer. That was like, it was just that. And I was like, why is this allowed to be a movie? And then everybody else that I knew, it came out in the UK before it came out in America. And all of my friends in the UK were like, no, you got to see this movie. It's really great. I didn't think it'd be good either. So I did see it. But like the trailer starts with Colin Firth as Harry Hart saying manners maketh man. And it's just kind of like the motto, whatever. So for the person to say it, who said it in this movie, I was like, interesting choice. And then, I think that's it for the concepts that I was saying. I do just want to point out that there were some bad green screen moments. I know we already talked about it, but it really took me out of it. It's the one near the end that I was like, ooh, this is genuinely taking me out of the moment.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think we covered everything that I will say, I really did like there were a lot of like callbacks that if you hadn't seen the previous movies, you wouldn't know they're callbacks. And it doesn't make it like they fit well where they are. But they were also, to me, I was like, oh, this is a reference to like, I remember where the toe pick, for example, in the shoe, that is something like you see that also in one of the other movies. It's not a huge part, but it's just like something that you see. So I was like, oh, okay. Just like the little threads there of like the little jewels for people who weren't new to the series. I really liked that, but I think they did it in a way that didn't leave you confused.
Yeah.
So
whenever I see a knife coming out of a boot, I will always think of Jethro Bodine in the Beverly Hillbillies, wanted to be a double-aught spy. And he has that the boots, and he has a really heavy hat, like the Odd Job hat that you can throw, but it's really heavy. So, of course, that Beverly Hillbillies ruins James Bond to me in some places too. Mind you, I was not alive when that show first aired.
I was going to say, what a reference there, Elliot.
It was in syndication. They would show Beverly Hillbillies before Brady Bunch in syndication. Thank you.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
I had to double check after finish the movie to figure out where I recognized Rasputin, the actor, from, and I had just seen him in No Way Home as Dr. Kurt Connors. Reese Ifans or Ifans, I think his last name is.
Yeah, he's also Xenophilius Lovegood in the later Harry Potter movies.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also Watchmen and top 10 comic book writer Alan Moore.
Yes. Yeah.
I go to the Shaken Not Heard Facebook page. I believe I posted an image of Alan Moore and Rasputin. I swear to God, they look. I think Alan Moore wants to look like Rasputin, or maybe Alan Moore is Rasputin. He's just been alive.
Maybe he never died.
Died. He's still around, and he's like writing. Yeah, he's writing comic books now.
Faked his own death.
Yeah.
I think Rasputin won the movie for me. Like that was.
I agree. I will say this. I'm going to say I wish they had kept him around longer.
I was a little bummed.
Yeah, figure out a way to have him factor more into the climax, so that way you can have all the different. Like make Rasputin, you think you've killed him, but he keeps coming back.
Yeah.
So you tried poisoning him, didn't work. You tried shooting him, didn't work. Tried drowning him, didn't work. Okay, we're gonna do all three at the same time.
Yeah, something.
That would have been fun because he was such a great character. He was, and to the point you were saying, like as far as like with history, a lot of times when you have characters like that, you don't really need to make up a whole lot. I'm sure Matthew Vaughn, as he was doing his research, said, "Oh yeah, this is a great character. He had all this crazy shit about him. We don't even need to make anything up. We're just going to pull all that in because in many cases, truth is stranger than fiction."
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to do a whole lot. But again, thinking that the president of the United States was being blackmailed to keep the U.S. from entering World War I, or I'm sorry, it was the Great War then. It wasn't.
Yeah.
They didn't have a sequel planned at the time.
What?
They didn't have a sequel planned at the time.
Yeah. That's that funny thing when that's one of the Doctor Who specials where the Doctor meets a soldier who fought World War I, played by Mark Gatiss. He goes, "Oh, the way you're dressed, that's a World War I era." He goes, "What?" Spoilers.
I will say, I don't know why that made me think of it, but something I really appreciated, particularly like the moment when they say, like, how are we going to get down from here? I appreciate the moments like that where it's like a lot of other movies would not have referenced that or admit it. They would have just been like, you do it, the math on your own of how you get down from here, which like you can do the math on your own, but it would take a long time. But that's one of the things I appreciate about the Kingsman franchise is they do that kind of stuff where it's like, it's not quite Austin Powers-y where they're like that out of it, but they are kind of like breaking that fourth wall without breaking the fourth wall by saying like, how are we going to get down from here? But having it be like in character and in the moment. So I the little things like that along the way, I was like, okay, I like this.
I agree. It was a good line.
Yeah.
Lehman says Jethro's hat looked kind of like Billy Jack's hat. Another reference to an old movie. But that was a very successful franchise back in the day, Lizzie. I know, before your time. Susan offers Christopher Lee played Rasputin and actually met Rasputin's daughter, which is really kind of neat.
Christopher Lee is the coolest.
Christopher Lee is the coolest. The dude was a spy. The guy did fight more. I remember we talked about this. John Clark was on the show a while back, and he talked about Christopher Lee. And apparently there was I want to say it was a scene in a movie where someone was supposed to be playing that they were dying. And was it?
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And
he said that's not how they sound when they die.
Yeah.
They stabbed to death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you listen to Judy
as a Lord of the Rings fan, yes.
Okay, here we go.
They talk about it like all of the cast members are like, "Yo, we knew he was cool, but then that moment happened, and we were all like, oh, okay, see, okay." we get it now. You've like genuinely killed people and been like close range killed people.
So when Judi Dench has her death scene in Skyfall, I thought of Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
But she did the thing that they say happened to you when you actually die. I was like, oh, that's acting. That is real acting there. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, I got to remember when I die to do that too.
Yeah, I don't think you have to like remember to do that. I think you just kind of...
Or I'll do the opposite. I'm gonna be like, no, I'm not dying that way.
I'm gonna prove Christopher Lee wrong. It can look like this. But yeah.
Tom Baker played Rasputin.
There's a lot of Rasputin.
Tom Baker is Rasputin. He's another guy who I could see actually being Rasputin. So again, you got to be as obsessive about these actors as I am to really get how kooky.
Get the jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel like what's his name would make a good Rasputin. Johnny Depp. He does Jack Sparrow very well.
Is he tall enough though? I picture
right. No, that's fair. That's fair. Maybe just put some like high-rise shoes on him.
Yeah. Because I mean, I remember I was like, after seeing, I was like, oh, that's right. I remember seeing like images of Rasputin.
Yeah, he's supposed to be just like huge.
Yeah, like a really tall.
Yeah. I think the casting of this was really good. The person who played Rasputin nailed it, and the like writing of Rasputin was really great. Not to make this a Rasputin podcast, but it was a very good depiction, and part of why he is such a fascinating character is because he's so out there and just like weird and all over the place and mystical. And I really like everyone, not everyone, because obviously there were people against him, but a lot of people fell under his spell. And so it was, I think they did a good job of creating a character that you could believe was evil, but also could believe would win you over and would entice you, whatever the word is.
The dude was like, well, yeah. that was something. I will find, I'm pretty sure we can find many of the scenes in question on YouTube. We'll post them on the Facebook page so you can see the incredible performance that this gentleman gives in this movie. I'm going through the comments here. Gwen 10, Alien Force, going back to the Walk Hard soundtrack. I can only hear the song when you all say his name.
No, she's saying you can never hear rah rah Rasputin lover. Like that Rasputin song. I know what her thoughts are.
I've not heard that one, but okay.
It's if you ever played Dance Dance Revolution, that was one of the really hard ones, and you had to do the like Russian squat thing, and it's become a thing on TikTok.
Okay.
It's the most ridiculous song, but I do love it. Also, Katie, please comment. Is that the one that they mashed up with the Blink-182 song?
Could be.
Is she commenting?
Not yet. It takes a minute.
She should comment.
It's got to get through it's got to go out onto the channel. People have got to read it and see if what's going on. Okay. Going through here. I'm scrolling back. What's going on here? What's the thing? The Wild Wild West had a lot of that type of stuff too, the boots and the knives and all that. I was a big fan of Wild Wild West, the old television series. Not so much the movie. Don't get me wrong, I was okay with Will Smith playing James West, but the plot itself was, you would think Will Smith and Kevin Kline would have a much better script.
But the theme song was a banger. She said, yep, yes, okay.
Also, Salma Hayek shows her butt.
Yeah.
Salma Hayek, yes, is in it, and directed by the same by Barry Sonnenfeld, who gave us the first Men in Black movie.
Yeah,
you would expect much better film. But,
Yeah.
Actually, if you want a good taste of what the movie was like, just watch the music video. Just watch the music video that Will Smith did, and then boom, and then you don't need to even see the movie.
There you go.
The music video actually is better than the movie. You know,
I think
it's much shorter.
We lost our way when we stopped having those pop song tie-ins to action movies. When was the last one?
The last pop song tie-in? Nah, that's a good
Men in
question.
Black had one. Well, not even just like a wasn't the one, not that I'm a Nickelback fan, but wasn't there one that was on the Spider-Man soundtrack?
Wait, on the old Andrew
Like the
Garfield.
Tobey Maguire Spider-Man?
No, the Andrew Garfield. What, the Tobey
No,
Maguire or
it
the Andrew Garfield
I
one?
think it was wasn't it Hero? Was that
Hero was from the Tobey Maguire ones. Yes.
yeah. I don't remember the last time that happened.
Yeah.
Where there was like a well-known popular artist or group that did like a song to promote big superhero sci-fi.
Yeah. You say this, the one, okay, so two things. One, the Sunflower song from Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Huge. But what I was going to say is the credit scene of this movie was FKA Twigs and a English grime rapper or grime artist did a song, and it wasn't quite the same. It might have been big in the UK. I don't know. Grime's huge there, so it might have been.
Yeah.
But it gave me very like James Bond theme song vibes.
I was going to say that within the first few seconds of that end credit song. Oh, I could see this over like
exactly. I was like, oh, okay. And it was called like The Manners of a Man or something like that. So I was like, oh, so you're really going for it by like having it be a manners maketh man reference. Like, so it really was meant to be that. So again, I don't know how well it did in the charts or anything like that, but sounds like they tried with this one.
Looking here, okay, The Kingsman, the Secret Service had a box office total of 414 million.
I think this one, The King's Man, didn't do as well as they were expecting.
It's in the age of COVID, though.
Yeah.
So, it's not.
Still made a lot of money. Still was very profitable, but not
looking.
It seemed like a very quick turnaround between the theatrical release and when they threw it on Hulu.
But to be fair, I think that is age of COVID-ness, because there are some movies that straight up like premiere in theaters and premiere on Hulu or HBO or whatever at the same time.
Yeah.
So for it to be,
well, according to Box Office Mojo, The King's Man had a worldwide box office total of 124 million. So. Yeah, not near as good as the very first one. But again, yes, we are talking about the age of COVID. If you make back what you spent on the movie, you're good. And then generally what you're going to do is make money on the video releases and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's like in comparison to Bond, No Time to Die came out, I think, late September in the UK and early October here. I think there was like a 2.5 month turnaround. But then once it was on like Prime and stuff, you'd have to buy it. This one, it's free on Hulu. If you have a Hulu subscription, you can just watch it.
Yeah.
The Bond movie is doing overseas what Spider-Man No Way Home is doing here. Here, people are going bonkers for Spider-Man, and the domestic box office has already surpassed Avatar. But hasn't gotten that internationally yet. Yeah. Whereas the Bond movies, there's some folks out there who want to say that No Time to Die, because they're haters on the movie. They don't like what happened with it. They don't like the ending. They're calling it a bust and a box office bomb. No, it's not. It's making its money back, and there will be more Bond films. So it's people with the right now. It seems there's this thing out there that we got to hate everything.
Yeah,
we got to hate. Book of Boba Fett, hate it. Well, I hate Eternals. No, I don't hate Eternals. I'm like that. I just don't want people telling me how great Eternals is when come out. Yeah. Let's be honest, it's not.
I also wonder if like the success of the Kingsman movies in general I wonder if they kind of are marketing towards a UK market.
Yes.
More so than anything else, because Even the fact that it was FKA Twigs and the grime artist on it, like grime isn't huge here at all, but it's massive in the UK. So if you're trying to get somebody to pay attention, like you're getting UK people to pay attention. So I think that box office is pretty decent for a movie that I feel like America's a bonus, not a like we need to crack it.
Not only a UK audience, but a younger audience.
Yeah.
Not like we've talked about this in the past, where the Bond movies their audience skews older. You know, or at least in the United States, it tends to be guys 30 and up, guys who grew up watching the Bond movies, who are okay with, you know, they like the male power fantasy that James Bond is. And if I hear any criticisms of the Daniel Craig Bond, it's just that he's too woke. You know, I've talked about this before. I remember a neighbor of mine went, man, I want Bond to just go back to bedding women. He doesn't bed enough women in the movies anymore. You know, so I was like, okay. And the fact that yeah, and then in No Time to Die, oh, what's this with the women? Why? He had Anna de Armas. He didn't bed her, you know. And why did he do that? I'm like, guys, come on, let's move with the times. Let's go with the times here. I can see that the Kingsman, though, I think a big part of that is the younger audiences are cool with the gore and the splatter and the hyper violence.
Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna put in the sexy stuff and the misogyny, it's you turn it up to 11. So it's like it's not. I can't even take this seriously. Yeah. You know, it's so obvious that this, you know, I'm not supposed to be taking this seriously. Yeah. The Bond movies want you to take it seriously. They want you to take everything about that particular that elements of the character seriously. If the Bond movies can lift, if anything, as you're saying, lift some of the stuff from Kingsman, but go start thinking younger. Think about a younger audience. Think about the things that today's audience want to see. I think a big part of it is younger audiences are big on the violence is not a problem. The stunts have got to get more out there because they're all playing, you know, video games, Call of Duty, you know, hell. They're re-releasing GoldenEye for I forgot what platforms they're coming out now.
Xbox.
Because of is it Xbox?
Xbox, yeah.
They're remastering and re-releasing GoldenEye. Why? Because whenever you think about Bond films, you don't. You think about the video games. Today's audience thinks they say, I learned about James Bond playing this video game. GoldenEye, the Nightfire, and all the other games that come later on. Yes. She says.
Me.
and I would be surprised. I would be amazed if there isn't a video game studio right now that's thinking we want to do a next level shooting, fighting, adventure game, nothing but use the Bond, the license. You know, make it.
There is a game being worked on.
Yeah,
it's called Project X. Nothing about story, gameplay has been released, but I can't remember what studio it's doing it. But when that was announced, I think last year, maybe late 2020, it was a big deal because there hasn't been like a really meaningful James Bond video game in a long time.
Yeah.
And to do next level, it takes a while. You announce it in 2020, you're probably not going to see it until 2024, 2025.
Yeah.
Those games take a long time to create. So, you know, I think Sony just bought a video game company. They bought Bungie, I believe. Which is funny because it's a Bungie. I belong to Microsoft, or I could be wrong. I could be thinking about the wrong video game company. Lehman asked the question. There's an inverse explanation in the Spider-Man film about why all the Spider-Men are named Peter Parker but look different. I have not seen it. I did not. They do not say that in No Way Home. I will say this: I am getting alternate universe vibes everywhere now when I go to see a reboot or something. I just saw the Bel Air reboot of Fresh Prince.
Yeah,
which feels very
the gritty reboot. Yeah.
It's right, but it's like the darkest timeline alternate universe reboot. But it's good. It's actually quite good. It takes you a while to get comfortable, especially if you watch the original show
Yeah.
a lot. You know, you go, okay, it's still faithful to the characters. When that watching something like Bond, where you're getting comfortable with them constantly recasting and shifting things. I will give credit to James Bond for making people comfortable with the idea of recasting Batman and Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah, because with Spider-Man's, I mean, I'm going to be honest, the last Spider-Man movie I saw was the second Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie. But as
Tobey Maguire Batman movie, Spider-Man movie, yeah.
Yeah, that was the last one I saw. But as I understand it, the Andrew Garfield and the Tom Holland ones both kind of like restart it. Like they both do the origin story moment. It's not like they're saying whatever happened at the end of Tobey Maguire's third movie, Andrew Garfield is continuing on. So, and I also haven't seen No Way Home because the last Spider-Man movie that I saw was Tobey Maguire's second one. But I do feel like a lot of mediums are moving towards a multiverse situation, especially with the success of the animated Spider-Man Into the Multiverse. I think they're kind of like, oh, people can accept it and understand what's going on. So I think the in-universe, and this is someone who does not know what she's talking about, but I think the in-universe explanation for it is that, oh, it's like an alternate universe where they're all Peter Parkers, but they're just, what if Peter Parker just shifted slightly and this is what he looked like and all of that stuff.
Dave, we've talked about getting previous Bonds to play characters in the upcoming, like Timothy Dalton as M.
Really?
Or Pierce Brosnan. Yeah.
Pierce Brosnan. I think bringing back Pierce Brosnan. Mind you, I believe the Mark Miller's comic book King of Spies is currently in production with Netflix as a series.
Interesting.
And it looks, and I swear, that character looks like Pierce Brosnan now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The promo art they released at the announcement of the series, it's like, this is clearly, it was based on like modern day Pierce Brosnan with the beard and everything. Yeah. Like, if you're playing him in that, it would be a huge missed opportunity.
Yeah, you would think they're going, okay, we've always had Pierce Brosnan in mind to play this character.
Yeah.
He's got to do it. So, and I would be all for it.
I've said this before. I was not a huge fan of Pierce Brosnan's Bond, mostly because of his movies, but I love him in like anything else he's in. Like anytime he plays a Bond type character, like the Thomas Crown Affair, he's great. And and he's done movies especially in the last decade or so, where he's playing like a retired agent or like assassin or something. He's fantastic. So if he came back to do something like that, I would be all for that.
I'm gonna just circle back to Kingsman just real quick because that makes me think of I don't know how to say his name. Ralph Fiennes? I don't know.
Ralph
Fiennes. I was gonna say Voldemort.
You say Ralph Fiennes. I say Ralph Fiennes. He says Ray Fiennes. Some people say Ray Fiennes. Yeah, I don't know. It depends.
Well, I don't know how the Ray pronunciation derives from the word Ralph, spelling Ralph. I don't get it.
Right.
Yeah, where does Brett Favre come from when it's spelled Favre? Come on, dude.
Oh, great. But yeah, well, I think it was interesting to see him be the Bond character because he was M, and M, they give you the background of he was this guy that was super cool. And I mean, I've seen Skyfall and Spectre, but I haven't seen No Time to Die. But so I don't know what happens in that one, but they give you this background of like, he was this cool guy who understands combat and all of that stuff, but he doesn't get to be the James Bond character because Daniel Craig's already there. So I thought it was really fun to see him in a role like that and he did a really good job. And it kind of makes you like, it made me happy that he had this opportunity to be that guy and show you what he's got. But it did also, like, we're talking about the parallels between the like later Bond movies and the Kingsman. There were moments where it kind of like harkened back to Skyfallish kind of stuff of Bond being out of shape and like needing to get into it and figure out how to do it and like be on the older end of the spectrum of the spy world and yet still managing to make it work. and then I got a lot of parallel in that too, and the fact that it was Rafe Fiennes.
Yes.
We'll go with that pronunciation. The fact that it was a Bond person, alumni, alumnus is the singular, being the character, it like really helped tie that in. So I don't know if they did that on purpose, but part of me feels like they did. It feels intentional that they were like, we're going to have this Bond alum do this to help really just hammer home that, no, we know what we're doing and we are referencing James Bond right now.
And I think I brought this up before. I think Ray Fiennes would have been a great Bond. Like in the 90s when he's a little younger, he would have been awesome. There's like a alternate multiverse where he was cast as Bond in the 90s instead of Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah.
So
does that mean Pierce Brosnan would be in the Kingsman in that universe?
In those movies, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
He might show up. You never know.
Oh, that would be
World War II
really cool.
prequel.
I don't know who we need to talk to, but I really, really want. I'm more excited by the concept of a prequel sequel than I am by Kingsman 3, because I really was a little let down by the second, like the Golden Circle, and they've kind of said that the third movie is like a trilogy ending of the Colin Firth and Taron Egerton characters. And so that kind of makes me like nervous to watch it, because I'm like, oh, but Golden Circle wasn't that great. Like, how is this one going to go? So I'm more so like, no, just scrap that and give me the World War II one with this going on. So who do we need to talk to make sure they actually greenlight that one?
Well, for all the movie executives who watch this podcast,
exactly.
Facebook,
Marv.
Yes.
Elliot, you if in like a year or two they announce Harry Styles is the new Bond, we know someone is listening to this podcast. Someone
listening here. I said, you know what?
No.
I can see it.
No.
I can see it.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, well, hopefully that exec is watching this so that I can say no. And they're like, oh, well, she's a 29-year-old girl and she's saying no, so we're going to listen to no. Leave Harry Styles out of James Bond. I will start a Twitter campaign.
But by the time they get to there, they're going to no longer be aiming for you, Lizzie. They're going to be aiming for younger than you.
Well, then they'd go for, I mean,
single gray hair just manifested in.
No, they'll go for, wait, I don't know. Is Timothée Chalamet younger than him?
I don't want him as Bond, no.
No, but I'm saying that's who they would go for if they were going for a younger girl.
I see what you're saying. I think he's
also American, so they wouldn't do that.
I thought he was English.
Nope, from New York.
And even less so. I want him as Terry McGinnis in a Batman Beyond movie.
Ooh.
With old Michael Keaton as his mentor.
Oh, Michael Keaton.
I can see.
Yeah, no, Harry Styles needs to stay out of it.
I was impressed by him in Dunkirk. And, I didn't even realize that it was him until someone, oh, that's Harry Styles. I go,
oh, I didn't watch it for like a very long time because I wanted all of the Harry Styles fangirls to not be in the theater when I saw it. I was like, I made
the point to Elliot. If he's good enough for Christopher Nolan, that should say something. Not that he's like the main star.
Not that he's not. Here's my thing. It's not that he's not wouldn't be good at it. It's that I don't want to deal with the fans of Harry Styles taking, like, you wouldn't want that. They would take over the franchise and you would hate it. Like, you would, they are terrifying. And I mean, like, I have friends that I have lost to the Harry Styles fandom, and you're just like, I can't talk to you. Like, I can't have a conversation with you. And I think it would just ruin the fun of watching James Bond. Like, it's rough. It's rough. Like, you don't want him involved. If you want to hold on to the purity of James Bond, you don't want him involved in it, which is not his fault, which, like, sorry, Harry Styles. Like, I know it's nothing against you, but your fans are awful and I don't want to deal with them.
Which is worse, Harry Styles fandom or a cult?
Are they different? That's my question.
Oh my goodness. All right. Good. I'm sorry, I lost track of the comments here, but Lehman asks about the Peter Parkers. I think that's the first time we've seen all the Parkers in one movie together. So they had, and So there is no explanation for that outside that you know who they were, who they are, and you're cool with it. Or you think it's cool when they're all together. It would be really cool to have a Bond movie where all the Bonds team up, like in a Into the Bond-verse type deal. But, that's not going to happen.
A comic book, maybe. Graphic novel would be cool.
Yeah.
They could get the license to do the likeness of all
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But who? Yeah. Yeah, I will you give credit to Into the Spider-Verse. That movie made it. I mean, mind you, that's the movie. They had already done it in the comics. They do that sort of stuff in the comics all the time. They also do it in Doctor Who does it all the time too, where they team up all the different doctors from different eras.
Well, but I think Doctor Who, you already have that as like part of Doctor Who is so sci-fi that you're like
it's built in.
You're
that
like,
idea.
okay, anything goes in Doctor Who. Right. But I think, and I understand that comic books did it first. I feel like it has to start somewhere else first. But I think mainstream wise, people who are not comic book fans, people who probably would have poo-pooed the idea of a multiverse or been like, it's too much to think about. Like they still saw Spider-Man and were like, oh, I get it. And I understand it now. So I really think for like popularizing it mainstream wise, I would give credit to Into the Spider-Verse.
I agree. All right. Any closing thoughts on The King's Man?
I like it on everything to say.
Good. Yeah. Well, again, to say it, you can see it on the streaming services. Hulu and HBO Max are both carrying it right now. So if you already have those services, you can see it for free. No need to rent or purchase. If you want to see, though, the Kingsman, the Secret Service, or Kingsman, the Golden Circle, those you do have to rent. You can find them, though, on Amazon Prime. I think it's like $4 each to rent them. I'm going to try to find them at my Redbox. I remember for the longest time, the Redbox had Blu-rays in there for the longest, for forever. So I'll see if I can find that. Because what did I find at Redbox for $6? No Time to Die on Blu-ray.
There you go.
No, I didn't get the fancy packaging and the collectible book or anything, but I got the movie on Blu-ray, and I can just pop it in whatever I want. And
I found Target the other day.
Oh, yep. You got the car.
The Aston Martin Valhalla that you only see in one scene in No Time to Die and doesn't even get any action. Like they made a big deal about having like 4 Aston Martins in this movie, and like the craziest, fastest one, you don't even see it drive.
I wonder if in the original script you did, because I feel like the toys they have to start. On Netflix, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, there's a show called The Toys That Made Us.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So good. But they have to start production like a year and a half before the movie's supposed to come out. So maybe there was a point in the script where they were like, oh no, but the Valhalla is going to be the big one. And so they're like, we'll make this into a toy.
Yeah.
You're right. No, the production does start way ahead of time. And another rabbit hole, some of the action figures for Thor, Love and Thunder, the images have already leaked online.
Really?
So if you want to see what Natalie Portman's going to look like as Thor, it's out there. Looks pretty cool. It looks a little bit like the Thor from the movie combined with the Thor from the comic book.
Huh.
Which is kind of neat how they did that. The female Thor in the comic book.
Yeah.
All right. So, knowing that, I'm scrolling back. Again, this has been a Sunday edition of Shaken Not Heard. Somebody asked, I think it was Lehman. Oh, wait, Lehman asks, will there be a Monday night show? No, there will not be a Monday night show. Sorry. This is taking place of the Monday night show. But if you would be so kind as to like and share this video, also because it will be on the archive page for people to view. It's going to be on YouTube, on Facebook, as well as Twitch. Please, by all means, like, share, subscribe, all those great things, and help us grow this page and our audience. Really, really grateful for all of you who I didn't even make a big announcement that we were going to be changing nights or days. But you guys are here. I appreciate that. Other things, if you are interested, Dave and I are also doing the MCU review. That's taking place every other week. Whenever there's not a Shaken Not Heard on a Monday night, we do the MCU review where John Clark, Dave Pinto, and I, with a special guest, talk about a different Marvel movie from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Our next movie is going to be, we were talking about Thor. Thor is going to be the next movie. And I do believe we're having, our guest is going to be Mike Drucker. Mike Drucker, comedy writer. Oh my God, if I get this wrong, John's going to have me hear about it. But I believe he's the head writer on Full Frontal with Samantha Bee. So we're going to have some, serious heavy hitters on the MCU review if you want to watch that and listen to us nerd out about those things as well. Moving forward, any closing thoughts in general, Dave?
I think I'm with Lizzie. I'm looking forward to if they do it a fourth Kingsman or a second prequel set during World War II. That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
Lizzie?
Yeah, I think it was a solid movie, especially after the second movie felt kind of like a dud. This one felt like a good comeback. And as it being a original script, it makes me interested to see what another original script would look like, aka World War II.
Yep.
And I echo those thoughts. If you have Hulu or HBO Max, give it a shot. Watch it. It's entertaining. You will have fun with it. Get some popcorn, have a drink. That's what I did. Have a drink and a snack while you're watching this movie. Okay, although maybe don't have that snack before the scene with Rasputin and Ray Fiennes and him feeling his leg, because if you're like one of those people where seeing people vomit sets off your vomit reflex, like if you're in a room with someone who's vomiting and you go, it makes you want to do it too. Like, don't eat a bunch. Because that was pretty fucking funny. And it worked. Funny. The thing that got me is that whole scene just worked for me. It just worked. I'm going, it seems menacing, and yet it's ludicrous.
Yeah.
And then it's funny. And you're like, all right, okay.
I need you to watch Kingsman Secret Service because I really want to see your reaction to it.
Okay,
that's everyone's homework. Please watch that too.
that will be the next movie re-review. Yes, that will be the next. We'll do the Kingsman, and then I do believe there are a couple things. Yeah, there will be, and I'm glad I had this to clear my palate after Casino Royale, 1967, which. If you haven't seen that episode, again, go to the episode archive on YouTube and Facebook, where Mark Ronner comes on and defends Casino Royale 1967 and pretty much accuses me of being a communist for not liking it.
And says it was better than No Time to Die.
Says it's better than No Time to Die. Yeah. And he would prefer it over any Pierce Brosnan Bond movie.
Yeah.
Wow. If the dude hadn't won a Pulitzer Prize, I probably would have called him crazy. But, hey. Yes, Mark was part of the newsroom that won a Pulitzer Prize. So he's technically a Pulitzer Prize winner. Can you believe that? Whew, man, all this greatness around me, and yet I am solidly right there, as George Costanza said, right there in the
meaty part of the curve.
The meaty part of the curve. That's me. All right, where can we see y'all on social media, Lizzie?
I'm on Twitter at Liz Seabass and on Instagram at Seabass_, spelled that way.
That way. Dave?
I am on Instagram at Pinto_Noir.
You can find me at Elliot Serrano on Instagram and Twitter, as well as on Facebook, Facebook Elliot.Serrano. Also at Facebook.com/King of Geek Chicago. Please, by all means, check out and like our pages for the Facebook for Shaken Not Heard. Let me grab these banners real quick. We have the Shaken Not Heard Instagram page. We have the Shaken Not Heard YouTube page that you can subscribe and share. Of course, if you're watching us here on the Facebook page, please like and share where you can. See us on Twitch TV, Shaken Not Heard. And then there is the MCU review. That's facebook.com/MCUREVU. Let me drop this banner so we can all see Dave's face. I always feel bad dropping a banner over him. We'll redo the banners so they don't seem so obtrusive. Until next time, thank you everyone for joining us. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for watching. Please, by all means, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, have fun with us. Write to us at shakennotheard@gmail.com. Tell us what you thought. Tell us what subjects you want us to cover in the future. Tell us what movies we should see. That's why we saw Casino Royale, because I was told we have to see it. So, and for those who suggested it, you know what? I don't blame you. I do blame myself for pulling other people into it, though. Have a great rest of the day, everyone. Have a good week. We'll see you next time.